Hi, I'm LL Eadie, and I'm the author of Pedro Menendez The Adelantado of Florida. I wrote this book for children, but also for adults too, to learn more about the oldest surviving civilization in the United States. Actually, Pedro Menendez brought over people 50 years before the Pilgrims and had the first Thanksgiving was there, actually. A lot of people don't realize that. As I said, this is a fictional story based on facts for children, but also for adults, because I included the history at the end of each part, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. There is history for the parents, teachers, so that you can answer questions. And at the back, there's also information too that you can use to answer questions. So I'm going to read Chapter 1 for you, and I hope you'll enjoy it. Thank you. Chapter 1, The Storm. All hands on deck. Under normal conditions, the ocean would be the color of a cloudless sky, but now it was without color, along with the sky above. The sea and the sky were as gray as smoke. It was hard to tell where one began and the other ended. Squinting through the torrents of rain and violent wind, I could just make out the white caps of the tall waves rising above the ship's railings and crashing upon its decks. The large galleon San Peleo and its fleet of 10 ships were being tossed like rafts in the rapids during the unexpected storm. I clung to one of the tall masts and watched my captain, Pedro Menendez, on the poop deck shout orders to the sailors. "Man your stations! Bring down the sails!" exclaimed Captain Menendez. "Batten down the hatches!" It was hard to hear his orders over the roar of the wind and the crashing ocean, and I was having a difficult time making out his face through the stinging sheets of rain. Anything on deck that wasn't tied down was doomed to the sea. That included both men and boys. If I had not witnessed it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. But the bow of our ship literally dipped under the water and came back up, dripping and creaking with salt water rushing through its decks. And it happened many more times than once. I was a child of 12 years of age at the time, a cabin boy on board this voyage, my maiden trip. I had fancied going to sea for as long as I could remember. I, like my captain, was from the north of Spain. I knew of him long before this voyage, and like him, I had become an orphan and had run away from my foster family. Pedro Menendez had lost his father and was sent to live with relatives, whom he did not have favor either. He took off too. Pedro Menendez grew up at sea. He had become a sailor at a young age and later fought the pirates of the Mediterranean for many years. I grew up hearing the stories. Pedro Menendez was my hero. This was not Captain Menendez's maiden voyage to New Spain, where riches such as gold and silver could be found. However, this was his first trip to Florida. He was now Florida's Adelantado, or honorable governor, appointed by the King of Spain, King Philip II, and was bringing 2,000 men, women, and children to live there. "Throw the women overboard!" shouted one of the sailors named Gonzalez as he tried to unlock one of the hatches during the squall. The frightened women and children were down below, where I'm certain they were being tossed to and fro like rag dolls in their cramped conditions. Sleep was impossible, even for the rats on board as well, that feasted on our food, bringing disease and death to many. "No!" shouted Menendez. "They are bad luck," yelled Alonso, another sailor. "It is because of them that we have run into this violent storm." He and Gonzales were not the only sailors with fear on their faces. However, the others were afraid to speak up. Punishments at sea were severe. For disrespecting an officer, one could be keel-hauled, dragged by a rope around and underneath the ship, or flogged with a cat-o'-nine tails tied to the end of a rope. Either one could cause death, and the entire crew was made to watch as a warning to them. "Don't be stupid," said Captain Menendez. "Do your job and pray to God." My body trembled as the sea biscuits in my stomach made a lurching effort to expose themselves on the deck before me. However, my main concern was not falling into the dark water that lapped over the railing as if trying to seize my bare feet and drag me overboard. So I clung to the mast and prayed, beseeched a God I was certain had finally heard my prayers when I was chosen to be a cabin boy on board his galleon. This ship's priest prayed along with us. "Watch out," warned Menendez as he pointed to the mast that I hugged. There was a cracking noise above me, and when I looked up, I saw what the strength of the wind had done. The mast I hugged was plunging. "Up here, boy," ordered Menendez. Without a second thought, I rushed up to the stern gallery deck, where my captain stood at the helm. As I held on to the marlin spikes with both my arms and legs like a baby clinging to its mother, I couldn't keep my eyes off my hero. I wondered if he was thinking about his son, who had been lost at sea during a storm like this one. No one had heard from him in 2 years. Did my captain believe he too would join him on the bottom of the ocean? Captain Menendez might be bringing settlers to Florida, but he was also coming with hope in his heart to search for his shipwrecked son, Juan.